Hello and welcome back to the Listening to Your Gut podcast. I am super excited to introduce to you today Anu Simh, who is a board certified functional health coach. She is the founder of the Nine Arms of Wellness, and she specializes in helping busy women lose weight and maintain their goal weight by focusing on gut health. And oh my gosh, Anu, we're going to have so much to talk about because I've gone through my own gut health journey. I also, at one point in time, helped coach women. So this is just going to be such an incredible conversation between you and I that I think the listeners are going to get just a tremendous amount out of. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kelly. This is a pleasure.
Absolutely. So Anu, I want to start us off with, like how you got into this work because I know for myself when I was coaching, it came from me having gone through the same exact situations, the same exact scenarios that my clients were going through. So I would love to know like where does your gut health issues where did those come from? Like how did you deal with those and
Yeah.
how did that bring you to gut health coaching?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're spot on, Kelly. I mean, I think all of us practitioners, it's our own, you know, struggles that bring us. It kind of makes us feel empathetic, and we also feel like it. One needs to have hope, right? And for whatever reason, we lost some of that hope in the struggle, and we finally found it, and it makes us feel like I need to pass this on to someone
Right.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so my story wasn't very different. I had gut issues as well, and this was a time when I'm dating myself, but many moons ago when we didn't have internet or ChatGPT or anything like that. So I had to go figure out my issues myself. I really went from doctor to doctor in search of answers, but no one could really help me. Some of them said, well, you probably need more protein. Others said, probably should stop with some of these veggies. And I mean, they didn't know at the time, and it's really not their fault. We didn't have a lot of clarity around some of these things like IBS, SIBO, things like that. And we still don't, but we're in a much better place. At least, there's a label. I didn't even have a label. It's like my tests all came back normal. Everything was fine. So, like, what the heck is wrong with me? And so the doctors were in the same predicament. We say, well, you look really healthy. You look great. So, what's going on? And I think when it finally dawned on me that this is something that I need to take into my own hands and not give the power to anyone else was one, I think, August morning in San Diego. And I went to a new doctor, really hoping and hoping that he's going to help me. And he actually laughed at me. He said, the kind of things that you're complaining about, bloating, a little bit of, discomfort, or that's something we residents go through all the time. I mean, in other words, suck it up, lady, don't make a big deal about it. So I walked out of there just feeling completely hopeless. That feeling I still remember to this day, Kelly. This
Yeah.
feeling like, is there no one here who can help me? Because for me, the pain was real.
Yeah.
Pain, the discomfort, not being able to eat the foods that you grew up eating, or having this and not knowing how from day to day how you're going to react to something.
Right.
That is not a good feeling because it completely gives you no control over what you eat, how when to eat, how to eat. None of that is clear to you.
Right.
So I sat in my car sobbing, and I clearly heard my grandfather's voice. He was a physicist and a Renaissance man, and he was probably the first person who had kind of told me that food is medicine. And I had long forgotten that, just being in the States, being an immigrant, just going, you know, just that journey of, being here, working hard, buying into the American dream. I completely forgot about the food aspect. I was more into let's work, 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 try get things done, make money, all of the stuff that we all do, right? To put food on the table and I just clearly heard him, and I said, "This is what's missing." no one knows what my body can really digest or, what I like to eat. So I kind of just stopped with chasing people with answers, and instead I put my science background to work. I went to those days library. I went to the UCSD library, sat for hours researching, and that's actually how I found the microbiome, or I want to say it found me. So, and yeah, and then I realized that that was the missing piece. I was starving my microbes. I was not feeding them. And I had straight from that, how I used to eat by so much, that the only way back was slowly kind of incorporating these foods and really taking care of me and putting myself front and forward.
Uh,
So that's how it all started. And once I felt like, oh, I can eat anything now, and I feel healthy, and that energy's back, that reason to live, and
mm,
all of that is just so alive and present.
yeah.
I wanted to pass this on to others, because yeah, there were many people in my boat and didn't know what to do. And I thought, this is it. I need to share this message, especially about these microbes. They are our forever guests. They're within us, inside us, and we have this incredible symbiotic relationship with them, and everybody needs to know about it. So,
Absolutely. I love that. And there is so much in your story that I resonate with. And I know, like I said earlier, listeners will resonate too. I mean, it's almost like we all go through the same type of situation, just, with a few varying degrees, right? But
yeah,
the ultimate, like, I think turning point here in this conversation is you decided to take what you had learned for yourself and share that with others. And I hope that everybody chooses to do that because that's what
yeah,
I did as well. And,
yeah,
when you know better, you do better. And yes, food is definitely such a
yeah,
crucial piece to this puzzle, but I know we're also going to talk about, and I'm excited too, to talk
mhm,
about other pieces to the puzzle
yeah,
that are also going to make a huge impact in
yeah,
changing your overall health and wellness. So before
yeah.
we get to that, I would love to ask you, you have the nine arms of wellness, and I would love for you to explain that to the listeners. How did you create that, and tell us what that means?
Thank you so much for asking that. I have very few podcast hosts who ask me
Oh,
that, and it is such a big part of what I do.
yeah.
Uh, the nine arms is something that also just came to me in my dream. I don't know if you've heard of you've seen a picture of the Hindu goddess. She's the one with all the different arms.
Yeah.
It was like that. I just got a message saying, what you're doing is just trying. At that time, I was really thinking of it as diet, 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 just. And so I got a clear message. This is more than that, honey. You've got to just really bring in all of the other things that are so important. And I still remember waking up and just writing down things from the dream, and it was just so apt and was so clear. But even just having talked to my clients and learning that everybody's journey is different, and for some it could be the starting point could be food. For others, it could be the gut brain, anxiety, mild depression, things like that. So I decided I'll pull all of this together. So my philosophy is nine arms of wellness, and it's not just one arm. So we start with wherever the client is willing to start. Some people come with such stress and anxiety, they are not able to start with food because food is another decision and they're already fatigued. So we start with where it feels right for them. Like it could be breath work, yoga nidra, anything to relax the nervous system and make them feel less stressed. And then we move on to the next part of what they want. Because after all, this is their journey, right? And all they're looking for is, I want to be optimally well. And that means different things to different people. And I always let my clients choose that because it is their body and they know best.
Yeah, I love that. That's incredible. I love how it came to you, and then from there it just manifested into this. I feel you, your signature almost craft, if you
Yeah.
in terms of how you treat clients. So I love that. And I know you're also coming out with right now it's the beginning of April.
Mhm.
I know you're coming out with a book called Nourish From Within. Tell me more about kind of where that idea came from. I know you love to be in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But tell me more about where that idea came from, and when it comes out, what can we expect to find in there?
Yeah. So the book is called Flourish from Within. And flourish for me is an important word because I usually ask my clients, what does it mean to flourish? We all have a different idea of what flourishing means. Some of us may think, oh, if I can get up in the morning and get to work without any problems, hustles, that's flourishing for me. Others could say, if I didn't have any gut issues or, if I didn't have to take medications for these problems, that would be flourishing. So I usually ask my clients what is flourishing, and that's where the body mind soul connection. When you talk about flourishing, I mean, this has been a human endeavor for like since Aristotle's time. We've all always been thinking, what is flourishing? How do we flourish? What? And there are many models, and most models bring in that emotional aspect. We talk about positive emotions, relationships, the ikigai or purpose in life, really finding out who you are within, many things like that, happiness, joy. And so for me, I revere the microbiome so much. I connected it to the flourishing. I said, if you are not flourishing biologically in your body, it is impossible. I mean, look back at your own struggles when you had gut issues. Was it possible to actually flourish? Because no, and I couldn't either. I couldn't flourish because I had so many dreams and I wanted to do this, that, but then boom, something happened and all I could do was just stay in bed or just be really upset and sad. So you do need your body to function in order for everything else to function along with it. So that is why I kind of named the book Flourish from Within. And and the book is about the gut microbiome. And it's for those who haven't heard the word or want more clarity, the microbiome is like trillions of bacteria in your gut, in your lower gut, colon. And we have a symbiotic relationship with them, meaning that we give them a place to stay that is in our colon and a nice warm place, and we provide them with a lot of fuel. That is something that is uh, for some people don't like, if you don't give them what they want to eat, they don't really flourish. And then if let's say we do indeed feed them really well, they thank us by making a lot of healthy compounds for us. And these are called short chain fatty acids, and they really help us deal with inflammation, with insulin sensitivity, just so many, a slew of things that, there's not a thing that these microbes are not a part of. And so feeding them becomes very important. And so in my book, I talk about why care about these guys, why do you revere them? Why are they these forever guests that you should take care of? And then how do you take care of them? So that's through my 9 arms of wellness and a specific sort of food for the microbiome. We're always concerned about our palate and what we eat, and I think that's okay because food is social and we all love certain kinds of food, and that's fine. But as we go about our day thinking about what foods that we eat, if we could just stop for a second and think about how can I feed my microbes as well? And really, even if it's from a selfish aspect of like, why, if I do that, I'm going to get some benefit, that's fine. That really helps, because then it becomes a habit and it becomes procedural, just like brushing your teeth. And that's what I'm hoping the book is going to accomplish, teaching people small little habits that can bring about bigger changes. Because no one needs to start with 40 grams of fiber on day one. It takes time. You remember the days when we couldn't eat fiber at all.
Yep.
So it takes time. And then finally, the last section is some non-culture specific recipes because I feel like every culture has its fiber sources and healthy foods, superfoods. So I just bring in all of these different from different cultures. So anyone, regardless of whether it's their own culture or they like a culture specific cuisine, like I love Mexican food.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
I kind of dig deeper into what else does Mexican food offer besides the unhealthy foods that we are attracted to, like fast food.
Yep.
They have a wealth of information about spices and herbs and things like that that we can really embrace. So same thing with India and Indian foods. There's so many herbs and spices. Italian food has so many different greens that can really jumpstart the digestive system. So bring in the cuisine that you like. There's no rigidity in the approach. And I don't, in the book, I don't say you need to be this or that because we have enough fights on Instagram about
Yeah.
I want to be a carnivore. I want to, be what you want, eat the protein that you want, but this is how you feed your microbiome. So my book is not about feeding you. Technically it is, but it's feeding the microbiome so it feeds you.
I
I
love it.
guess that.
I love it. And while the recipes definitely are nourishing, I did have Flourish from Within. I don't know why I said nourish. I think I had food on the brain, but I'm so excited to get this book because this is something like I've never really seen before, where you're giving us the science, the understanding, the knowledge that we need in order for it to make sense, right? In
Yeah,
order for if we're currently eating the standard American diet, what's going to make us change to eating
yeah,
something better? The knowledge.
yeah,
Knowledge about why we shouldn't be doing that and we should be eating cleaner and plant-based, and having variety,
yeah,
right? It is the key. So I love that you've, for lack of a better term, married the two together, the
yeah.
science, the knowledge, and the recipes. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see the rest you got in there. That's going to be incredible. So I love that. I
Thank
guess
you.
my next question for you related to, just kind of veering away from food, even though we know that is a key piece to supporting our gut microbiome and just our overall health, um, is really like when we dig deep into stress, right? Because for me, that was my biggest, and it sounded like that was a huge thing for you too, but that was my biggest culprit of my issues, my gut issues,
Yeah.
stress. So, what do you share with clients? What have you learned related to stress and how that affects our gut and just our overall health and well-being? And, how do you support clients in
Yeah.
um, finding a balance with stress? Because there's
Yeah.
stress, but we don't want to be overly.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's due stress, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and not, and of course, and you're right. I mean, it's going to be a part and parcel of our life, especially the hours that we put into work and not having that work-life balance. And I think our country is that's the biggest culprit. We are working way too hard and too long, and not enough time to just really enjoy and reap the benefits of all that work that we do. When my clients come to me, I can tell, Kelly, I could tell they don't even have to say that they're stressed.
Oh,
Their body is kind of emitting those, signals of high stress. They're not able to sit still. They're not able to be present. They're
yep.
looking at their watch. They feel like there's someplace else they need to be. So when someone is not present to the moment, it is a sure signal for me something's amiss. And we could say it's starting from the gut, but when I don't know a client, I don't make those assumptions. And I usually ask them, what do you think about your stress level? Where do you think it's? And usually, within a few weeks, they are able to really get to the bottom of it. Like I had a client who was just CEO, just the big, high pressure kind of job. And uh, his work life was great, but then he said, my stress starts in my belly. I feel it in my belly when I'm driving home. And I'm driving home, and I know that when I get home, I have little kids and a wife who's waiting for me, and I can't disconnect. I can't disconnect from who I am, the CEO at work, to dad, husband at home. So, I mean, sure, we could do a lot of things to that, but it really depends on where the client is and what the client wants. And I said, is it a bit of a commute for you? And he said, well, it's about 35 minutes. And I said, is there anything on the way that really kind of beckons? When we're driving, there's so many things and he said, well, I always think, wow, the ocean's so beautiful. I really wish I could just stop for a second and take in that ocean and that sunset. And I said, so is there a reason you're not doing it? And he said, well, I want to go home to my kids and my wife. And so I said, so we're going back and forth, and I said, well, what if we tried spending just a few minutes of doing some breath, watching the sunset, and seeing if that would be the appropriate disconnect for you between CEO and dad and husband. So he was willing, and then he tried, and for a week, that's all he did. He stopped, turned off the engine, looked at the sunset, and I taught him a little bee breath, where he hums like a bee and just kind of relaxes and takes some deep breaths. And then he just, went back home. And his wife, within that week, said, there's something different about you. And the kids were like responding to him differently. And so, the reason I share this is it's a very small little thing that we did. It doesn't have to be huge. Just that little adjustment of his brain to the fact that I'm no longer CEO. I'm using breath that is always available to me to just relax. And I'm also putting myself front and forward by listening to what my body wants. It wants to look at the sunset. It wants a moment for me before I head home and take on another responsibility. Just relaxed his nervous system completely. It was like a different person. And so for me, I'm always looking for these small little changes because you can't really offer like a bucket of things to your clients and hope for them to just take off with everything. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen for us. It won't happen to them either. So I think small steps are really important.
I love that story.
Mhm.
That's incredible. And it
Mhm.
it reminds me too of when I first started doing yoga. Um, I think I had this very narrow mindset of like, if it's not cardio, it's not doing anything for me.
Yeah.
But once I consistently did yoga, I mean, I had better brain clarity. My breathing was more regular. I was less stressed. And without even really changing my diet, I was looking and feeling better too. So
Yeah.
that's just another power or testament, if you will, to yeah, just kind of some of these smaller. Yours was a way smaller change than yoga, but still another example of how just making those minor tweaks, like you said,
Yeah.
can have a
Yeah.
huge impact. And I love how his wife noticed it, his kids picked up on it too, and
Yeah.
were acting with him differently. It's just, yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, we don't give enough credit to that, that whole thing. But I mean, the thing is, the stress is something even your gut feels, right? 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. and GABA, all these neurotransmitters. Every time I say this in every podcast, but it just,
Yeah,
I still am so amazed by it.
it
Even
is.
as I'm saying it, like, wow. And it's the gut sending all these
Yeah,
messages to the brain. How wonderful and beautiful this whole system called
I
body
know.
functions. And this vagus nerve that is so incredible in its messaging, system. I
Mhm.
mean, so there are so many things in our body. We can't think about them in isolation. And a lot of times in Western medicine, that's what happens. We think of them as separate systems. That's why we have specialists. Oh, he's a cardiologist. This is that. But there's no team. We need a team
Mhm.
for Kelly. We need a team for Anu, someone who's they all connect and say, this is what's really going to benefit you rather than, oh, I fixed your cholesterol, I fixed your diabetes or something like that. That it's just does not work for the for I would say flourishing, for actual flourishing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and so I want to come back to a little bit of the food discussion because I have a question for you related to intermittent fasting. I know that there are so many different stances, viewpoints on intermittent fasting, and there's really so many different ways to do it. But I'm curious what your take on intermittent fasting is and um, how have you seen that that impacts the gut and the overall body, especially for a
Okay.
woman?
Okay. It's actually like I think there are like three questions in there.
I
So,
know, sorry.
so from a science and research standpoint, there's plenty of research showing that intermittent fasting is very beneficial to the microbiome, largely because we decide that this is when we eat, this is when we rest, and the bugs love it because just like us, we have a circadian rhythm. We're diurnal, although we don't respect it most of the time, but we wake up with the sun and we're supposed to wind down at sunset and go to bed at a certain hour. And when we follow that, the gut microbiome likes that because they have their own, circadian rhythm that's very similar to us. So intermittent fasting gives us that. We have very clear times of when we eat and when we don't. So they seem to thrive on that, and their microbial diversity increases with IF. So, having said that, I think it's very bio-individual. It really depends on where, if you're a man or a woman, depends on where you are in your cycle. Are you postmenopausal, perimenopausal, or you're a young teenager, doing sports? So everybody responds differently to intermittent fasting. And so that's why it's very hard for me to say across the board that this is great for everyone because we are so unique and our bodies are unique. How we respond to food is unique. How we eat is unique. How our diets are unique. So I couldn't just say, yeah, it's great for everybody. But if I were to just look at the gut, and the brain, maybe it does help from a cardiovascular standpoint. There are several studies showing that intermittent fasting really helps for people who have gone through cancer. It seems to be one of the things that really helps post-cancer to make sure the cancer doesn't come back. I mean, some studies over there. So all in all, some positive ones. My big concern is someone's practicing intermittent fasting and they're not eating nutrient-rich food and they starve themselves, they're starving their microbes. So that would be my biggest concern about that. Are you eating nourishing foods, micronutrient rich foods in that two meals that you're eating? Let's say you wake up you do a 7 to 3. I met someone who's doing a 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So that's like a lunch at 3 p.m. and that lunch is also dinner. How much are you able to eat? It's very, very challenging. And on top of that, if you are on a drug like Ozempic or something like that, your appetite is completely gone. And when you don't have an appetite, your brain is going to say, well, maybe you should just eat what you like. and that could be a Pop-Tart. So, and then so you're not eating five, you're eating one. And is that really nourishing you? So as you can see, there's so many things that come to my head about intermittent fasting that I couldn't tell you that it's good or bad.
No, I totally get it. And I am of the mindset too, especially as a woman, that because we hold on, we'll have to cut that. I will cut that out. Um, they're having quite a time out there at my um I love what you shared, because I am of the mindset too that like especially as a woman, a cyclical cycling woman, that can wreak havoc on your hormones. And I once read someone sharing, like a different way to view intermittent fasting, and they said, you could choose to start at 7 in the morning eating and then finish eating at 7 at night. Um, and within that time frame, that's 12 hours. You still have a full 12 hours that overnight you are making sure you're letting your body digest. And I don't know if this is something that you've heard of or you've done before, but I try to most nights eat and then wait 3 hours before going to bed so that my body can fully process and
Yeah,
digest. And I notice that when I do that consistently, I wake up feeling more rested, more
nourishes.
energized. Yeah, I also feel like there's less um, blips in my sleep. I sleep better
Yeah,
because
yeah,
my body's not trying to process the food and sleep at the same time, right? It's like if you eat right before
yeah.
you go to bed, then your body's like, okay, what do you want me to do? Sleep or process your food? So, yeah, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
So what you suggested, 12, like
Yeah,
seven
12
to
hours.
12-hour flight, that's something that has gotten a lot of press and it's got a lot of research as well. Walter Longo, the FMD guy, the fasting mimicking diet professor, I think he spent all of his life at USC researching intermittent fasting. And so he says you don't have to go crazy and do 16 hours or something like that. Even 12 hours is going to get you some benefits. So I usually look at the cycle and I ask the client, when do you feel like you can't do intermittent fasting? It's usually 1 week before your period starts. You're having all of these cravings, you want something sweet, you're feeling kind of really tired, all of that. And so respect that. Respect your body and respect what it's telling you. And then if you are having cravings, then maybe just do something that's eat foods, look for foods that are going to be nourishing. So tubers, sweet potatoes, things like that, boiled and cooled potatoes. And then there's like sometime in the cycle where you feel stronger and you could do an 18-6 or whatever that works for you. So it becomes very bio-individual.
Yeah.
And I think what happens in today's world, Kelly, it's correct me if you don't agree with me, but I feel like because we have such a frenzy of information overload on the internet, on Instagram and things like that, people are trying different things that, they say, oh, I listened to this person, I'm going to do that. The next shiny new object.
Yep.
And in all of this, what we've forgotten is that you are unique. You
Mhm.
are a person and you have to kind of, that's why I have such a hard time even telling people.
Sure.
People will ask me, like, what are the three supplements you recommend? Holy crap, I don't know. I don't know you. How can I tell you what? So it's very hard for me to do that. I can give you generic information, but that does not buy you a cup of tea because
Oh.
how is that going to help you?
Mhm.
I'll give you an interesting example. I've recently discovered my love for creatine. It's really helping me in more ways than any other supplement. Okay. I mean, I have tried being in this field, I've experimented with so many different things, and creatine's really helped me. Um, Helped me in the sense that it helps me cognitively, it helps me lift more. I'm not sore the next day. Now, if I just tell people everybody should take creatine because this is such a well-studied supplement, I'm doing a great disservice to the people who follow me, because that's how I feel about this, very strongly too about this, because some people have had negative reactions to the drug, I mean, to the supplement. Some people have felt anxious on it. Some people are not able to sleep at night.
Mhm.
And most of the studies are saying that you can sleep better, it's better for your brain and all of that. But here we are. It's an anomaly, maybe. But these anecdotes from these people are what really drives science. It helps us ask better questions, right? About these things. So that's why it's really, be it intermittent fasting or diet or anything, I think you need to respect who you are, you need to respect your body, and be I would say the one thing I would say is, if you try an intermittent fasting or you try a supplement, have a clear goal. Like, what is it that you want to do? Why are you trying it? What benefits do you want to reap from this? And if it's a supplement, what symptoms are you chasing? Is there some symptom that you're really tired of and you think the supplement's going to fix it? Be very clear on why you're taking the supplement and try it for a short period of time, let's say a month, and really log your, journal it, get some input from the supplement, and don't take 10 supplements at the same time, because you're not going to get any responses, that are going to be clear to you. And then once like I did with creatine, now I know it's non-negotiable. I have to have this every day because it seems to really work for me. So you'll find your own set of supplements that are going to work for your body, and I think that's very crucial in today's world,
I think so
because
too.
we're bombarded with information and most
Yeah.
of it is crap.
I love how you gave just like such an easy way to go about it too. I mean, it makes total sense to like just start with one supplement, right? And really have a clear goal, a clear outcome in mind of what you would like for it to do, knowing full well maybe that might not happen, but you're
Yeah,
also giving your body a chance to see what potential it has for you, right?
yeah,
If any. So
yeah,
I love that. And I also am of the mindset of like, you know, I don't think there's ever any way that you could note take, annotate, journal about how you're feeling. I don't think there's any way to go overboard on that. I have
yeah.
always found that that has guided me. It has guided clients in the past for me to help them and for them to help themselves.
Mhm.
So I think, going back to what we've shared since the beginning, you know yourself better than anyone.
Yeah,
So get that pad of paper and pen or put it in your phone or tablet, whatever you want to use, and do that note taking because
yeah,
it's going to provide you some really um, cool, I think, statistics on what
yeah,
you're doing to support your overall health and wellness. And it'll really, I think also it fuels you once you see that, wow, I'm having less brain fog because I'm taking a nightly walk out in my neighborhood. Just like we said, coming home and maybe watching or going to the beach and seeing the ocean waves and hearing that and having those calming breaths. It's those things that compound over time that are going to help you to really see the benefits holistically.
absolutely. 100% agree. Yeah, yeah, it's important. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I want to ask you two more things. One of which is, for someone who maybe right now is just feeling lost, right? Their gut health is out of whack. They're feeling all kinds of symptoms, right? Brain fog, fatigue, maybe cramping, bloating, a lot of the common things we see with gut distress and gut issues. What what might you recommend to individuals, women specifically, that are like, you know, Anu, I just want to try one thing, right? And I want to see what that can do for me. What are some of your like go-to things that you remind clients of, hey, let's just start basic and simple with
yeah. Okay. That's a great question. And if I'll tell you how I help clients with gut issues. The ones that I see most in my practice, like IBS, SIBO, things like that, and sometimes it's just constipation. or diarrhea or something like that. It's just one symptom, and others are getting off PPIs, for acid reflux. So let's take constipation. That seems to affect most women physiologically, and just the way our anatomically, how we are built, and how we store stress. There's so many reasons. One of the things is we're always, as women, taking care of others and we forget to take care of ourselves. So really starting, and that's why I feel like constipation is a huge thing with women. I don't know if you don't hear this so much from men because they probably don't know, oh, I didn't know that was constipation, or was it really? I mean, I have so many male clients who have no clue. I mean, I say, dude, that is constipation. You've just had one bowel movement in like 3 weeks. Yes, you're constipated. But women are more like are more apt to just tune into advice on the net, or they're always looking for ways to better their health, right? So if it is something like constipation, the first thing is you do what is most people will ask you to do. Say, hey, are you drinking enough water? Are you taking enough fiber? Are you having doing some kind of exercise? Are you moving your body? Are you eating fruit along with the fiber? Like,
Yeah.
these are the four things that I tell my clients.
Mhm.
And the reason I put fruit in a separate thing category than fiber, because fruit has become this evil thing for a lot of people, in today's world, and they put everything as high glycemic, but it doesn't have to be. You could have fruit that is low glycemic, but and give you the same kind of benefits, for something like constipation.
Sure.
And then the next thing would be to really have a good intake journal, really kind of look at what you're eating, how you're sleeping, the stress, your mood. So I call it the food, mood, and poop journal. So take a good look at all three,
Yeah.
and see how. And sometimes we don't even know if we're constipated, And so for me, constipation as a definition is if you are not having a bowel movement every day. It doesn't matter what anyone says. If you're eating 3 meals a day and you're not having a single bowel movement, where's it going? What's happening? So
Right.
we have to kind of have a good look at that. And then maybe doing like a gut transit time, kind of tracking how long it's taking for the poop to come out. And you can do that very easily by swallowing some sweet corn or eating some beets
Hmm.
and chasing either the corn or the color,
Yep.
and then kind of figuring out how long that takes. If it's more than 24 hours and um, going up to 72 or something like that, you're definitely constipated. You have gut motility issues. It's your digestion is slowed down, so there's room for putrefaction. There's room for the food to sit there and putrefy. So that's not a good thing, and that can affect your gut microbiome as well. So from that perspective, journaling and making these small changes really matter. And then really kind of taking a hard look at what could be causing the constipation. For some people, it could be peristalsis, just, what's going on inside their body. Others, it could be the foods that they choose. I had one client who tracked it and she said, every single time I have garbanzo, I'm constipated.
Uh-huh.
She couldn't have found that out if she hadn't journaled.
Right.
Yeah, or if she hadn't eliminated some culprit foods like dairy, gluten, things like that. So anything you do for a short time as an experimental goal, see how your body responds to it, and then you add it back. And when you add it back is when you get the most information. You
Hmm.
add, and if you react poorly to it, then you know that there's a problem here. So let's figure this out. Do I want this trigger in my life? If I'm not celiac, um, and do I still want gluten because I'm non-celiac, so it doesn't affect me to that degree, but I could still be intolerant to it. But I'm okay with that because I can't imagine my life without a pizza every week, every week. Then we find things for you like an enzyme support, Find
Yeah.
out how much pizza will you have at a sitting. Really create goals around it so you don't feel deprived. You
Yeah.
don't feel like this is the end of my world. I can't have pizza. You know, I mean, so that doesn't work either. So that is how I go about it. It's really the client and go very slow. And so the client is already in a stress mode because of the abdominal issues. So you don't want to add to it. We just go
Oh,
slow and steady.
I love that. And I love that you shared constipation because yes, that is like one of the biggest things I hear people, my friends talking about. From time to time I have that too. And I love your philosophy of again tracking it because you're really empowering
Yeah.
the client to understand themselves. And while you're supporting them with the background and the knowledge that you are transferring to them through this process,
Mhm.
they're becoming more competent and capable of eventually that gradual release.
Right.
Now you
Yeah.
can do it on your own because you know what to look for and you know the
Yeah.
thing, the process of how to to support yourself. So I
Yeah,
love
that's so important. But by the way, I mean, I do have an entire ebook on constipation. So if you, I mean, I'm happy to share with your audience, you
that.
know.
Oh, we would
Yeah.
love that. Yes, that would be amazing.
And again, I don't say in there saying this is exactly what you should do. I
Right.
give you some choices and you try different things and see if it works for you, you know.
Love that. Well, Anu, this has been incredible. Thank
Mhm.
you so much for chatting with me today. Before we wrap up, can you share with the women listening in how they can connect with you, best ways to connect with you, and how they can work with you as well?
Sure. Well, I do two kinds of things. I do a microbiome test and I kind of give you a starting picture of the microbiome. And although this is not a diagnostic test, it kind of gives you a good idea of what's in your distal colon and do you have diversity or you don't. And that's a great starting point. That is one way to work with me. People work with me like private coaching, and then I have a group weight loss program, you know, where it's living at your ideal weight. It's called Reboot for Life. And what I tell my clients is it's not just about you losing the weight, but how you can live at that ideal weight for life. So these are the three things that I offer. My website is Nine Arms of Wellness, like my business.com. And my Instagram is at Nine Arms of Wellness as well. And the book that's coming out is Flourish From Within. It's going to be available where all books are sold, and but also on my website.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to be getting a copy of that. I can't wait to have that in my repertoire of recipes and just knowledge through that book. So I can't wait. Anu, thank you so much. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you. It was great, Kelly.
Yes, thank you so much.